If you want to 10x your money, if you want to take whatever you've got and do 10x, buy Bitcoin. And if you want 100x, if you want to make extreme amounts of money, 100x, 1000x, if you want to make hundreds of millions or billions, then you buy Bitcoin with somebody else's money. Okay, you basically have to buy it with leverage, right? Borrow money from a bank, buy Bitcoin. Start a company, raise venture capital, buy Bitcoin. Take a public company and issue public company stock, buy Bitcoin. Take your hedge fund, raise $1 billion, get a 2 and 20 deal, buy some Bitcoin with it, and get 20% of the upside. The greatest deal of the century is the Bitcoin deal, right? The Lummis bill is worth $16 trillion to the country. What's it cost us? Nothing. Like almost nothing. Like you would a rounding error. You could like pledge 25% of the gold and you would have that. If you actually scale up to a triple max or the Trump max bill, just buy 6 million Bitcoin, you could just swap the gold that we've got floating around the treasury for Bitcoin, take over the entire network. It'll be worth $81 trillion to the United States. So people say, well, the US doesn't need it. Well, like, who doesn't need $81 trillion, right? Like we go from like owing money to being net creditors. I mean, maybe you think we don't need it, but it's kind of like saying, well, we didn't really need California back in 1848 or Texas. We didn't need Alaska. We didn't need the Louisiana Territory. Well, maybe you didn't know why we needed it, but the fact of the matter is you're going to build the economy of the future on top of that property, and you can buy it for a nickel today. And, this analysis works for any country. By the way, there's like 13 or 14 states that are putting forth strategic Bitcoin reserve bills. Texas, just one popped up on my screen today. So there's a competition here. The first country to print some of its own currency to buy Bitcoin wins, right? People that just swap their gold reserves for Bitcoin win. If the US swaps gold for Bitcoin, not only would they actually retire their own debt, they would crash the gold network and they would demonetize all the assets of the Russians and the Chinese and all of our geopolitical enemies. So I think there will be a lot of interesting geopolitics here. If you're a fool, then you take all your money and you put it in a third world bank or third world currency or developing world bonds, and you will lose it all. If you're fearful, then take all your money and you buy currency and bonds and you wait to die, and you'll probably make it to the rest of your life and not run out of money, but it's not likely that your kids or your grandchildren will be rich because bonds aren't a very good investment. If you have wealth and you just want to keep your money, and you're conservative and you're a traditionalist, buy a diversified portfolio of real estate and high quality equity, buy the S&P index and buy some commercial real estate and carefully manage it and watch it. You won't get richer. You probably won't you'll get a little bit poorer, maybe you'll just tread water, you'll stay the same. Your net worth and nominal amount will trend up 7% a year or 10% a year or something, and so good for you. If you want to 10x your money, if you want to take whatever you've got and do 10x, buy Bitcoin. And if you want 100x, if you want to make extreme amounts of money, 100x, 1000x, if you want to make hundreds of millions or billions, then you buy Bitcoin with somebody else's money. Okay, you basically have to buy it with leverage, right? Borrow money from a bank, buy Bitcoin. Start a company, raise venture capital, buy Bitcoin. Take a public company and issue public company stock, buy Bitcoin. Take your hedge fund, raise $1 billion, get a 2 and 20 deal, buy some Bitcoin with it, and get 20% of the upside. So if you want to you can get to 10x without a lot of leverage. If you want to get to the 100x or the 1000x, then you lever something. MicroStrategy went from a $12 stock to a $360 stock in 4 years by levered Bitcoin, right? I mean, this is not a complicated idea. People have levered real estate for 100 years. The difference is this is the most valuable real estate humanity's ever come up with. It's digital real estate. right? It's much more scarce. It's cyber Manhattan. Every business can do it. Any family can do it. Any investor can do it. Any country can do it. Hopefully I piqued your interest, and I just invite you to consider, what's your Bitcoin strategy? And I encourage you to do the right thing for your family, for your employees, for your shareholders, for citizens, for your investors, for country, for the world, for your legacy, right? It's a new technology. It was fire. Some people run away from the fire. Henry Ford put the fire in an engine, put the engine in 1 billion cars, put it in millions of airplanes, put it in all your ships, right? Changed the world. He harnessed the fire. Some people are burned by the fire. Some people harness the fire. I give you electricity. Some people are shocked by the electricity. Other people wire their houses, their appliances, their elevators with electricity, right? This is digital energy. You can run from it. You can embrace it, right? You can run from gunpowder, nitroglycerin. You can embrace it. But the problem is, the technology is going to find you one way or the other, right? And when it does find you, if you're on the other side of a monetary technology, it'll make you poor. You'll be the African tribal leader holding the glass beads when the Europeans come in with gold coins and they manufacture your glass beads and they buy up everything in your country and leave you and your heirs destitute because you weren't smart enough to realize that glass beads aren't going to beat gold coins. You can't cling to your wood when steel comes along. You can't cling to your bronze when a harder metal. And if you don't like air power when they stop dropping bombs on your head, you'll probably discover a love of air power. So this is technology. Don't be afraid of it. I'm not telling you to take your money. I'm telling you to take your time. If you don't believe anything I said, invest 100 hours in this. If you decide after 100 hours it's a waste of time, then you'll know for sure that the other 500 million of us are idiots, and you could talk about it. But on the other hand, and I'll end with this one observation, the average person spends 100,000 hours in their life learning to get a job and then working. Trace how much time you spent from age 6 to age 66, right? 60 years, 2,000 hours a year, maybe you stop 10 years. 100,000 hours you're going to spend to make money. I would say spend 100 hours figuring out how to keep it.
I would like to know what threats do quantum computing signals for the blockchain?
I think right now all the quantum computing discussion is primarily being used to raise money for quantum startups that want to attract capital, but for the most part it's just hype and FUD. Every 2 years people bring up the topic. The consensus of the programmers in the industry is we don't have to worry about computers capable of cracking encryption algorithms that we use today for another 10 to 20 years. At some point, if computers are powerful enough to crack those algorithms, then all of the software in the world run by Google and Microsoft and Apple and all the Bitcoin nodes will all be upgraded with a new set of encryption routines. But you're at least a decade out before that's relevant, and it's not unique to Bitcoin. It would have an impact on every government, every bank, every technology company, every digital product you have in the world. They'll all get upgraded if they need to. But for now, it represents more of a marketing thing for tech companies that are raising capital than it represents a realistic threat to anybody.
Perfect. 11 o'clock.
Hey, Michael, how you doing? I came to your session last year. Not a crypto guy, but I walked out buying Bitcoin, so thanks, and it's done great. Great share on the arc of family, friends, country for Bitcoin. What are the most piercing counter, or if you were to take the exact opposite side, like what are the biggest counter arguments to not buying Bitcoin?
It's new, it's different, it's not, I didn't learn it in school. Nobody taught me. It's new and different and strange, and it's a different way to see the universe. And most people, they function based upon simple truisms. Volatility is bad. Don't risk. CFOs aren't supposed to take risk, stuff like that. So conventional wisdom is the number one friction point or impediment right now.
Thank you so much. What kind of impact do you see fair accounting value having in MicroStrategy stock this year?
We'll adopt fair value accounting with our Q1 results, and then you'll start to see a change in our GAAP financials. At that point, you'll be able to write up or write down the value of all your assets based on fair value at the end of the quarter. So we'll have a much larger balance sheet, and we'll start to generate investment income in large quantities.
Hello.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your speech today. As the biggest buyer of Bitcoin, aside from, let's say, BlackRock as ETF, in your opinion, what is the current size of available Bitcoin liquidity? I mean, we all know that there is going to be 21 million Bitcoin, but in reality, there's a lot of Bitcoin that are locked, lost keys, a lot of people not selling. Like, if you could buy all the Bitcoin available today, what do you think that number is?
Yeah, I mean, you can buy any amount of Bitcoin you want today as long as you pay a price. We buy $100 million an hour sometimes without moving the price. We bought $200 million an hour without moving the price. So you can buy any amount of Bitcoin you want. What's going to happen? It doesn't really matter that there's a limited supply because as the price doubles, people are going to put Bitcoin on the market to sell it. So what's happening is just there's 450 Bitcoin mined every day. And that's available for sale by natural sellers, the miners. That's about $40 million or $45 million a day. Once that $45 million has been bought, then the price has to move up to find a willing seller that's willing to sell at a higher price. And that's a dynamic that will continue forever.